Hi everyone, my name is Chirag Shah. I'm your host and welcome to the Gateway Realty Show, information you should not be without. And on this episode we have Paul Oster here, one of the principals at Better Qualified, and we are going to talk about credit. So Paul, thanks for coming.
Well, thanks for having me on.
So Paul's an expert in the credit industry and they've been doing this for over a decade. They've been on ABC, NBC, and probably every major news outlet that you've seen. So thank you for taking the time to come here.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So let's just jump right into it. So we're going to start off with basics. So really, what is credit?
Well, if you look at the pure definition of when they started talking about what credit is, it's actually the prediction of whether or not you're going to default on a line of credit that you take out. So right from the get-go, it has a negative, connotation and feel, and unfortunately, I think most people feel the same way.
Got it. So I know as being a real estate broker, a lot of people are fearful of their credit. And like you said, most people think it's bad. And a lot of times it's better than people think. And in other times it's worse than people think. So what factors really affect your credit?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing is that most people don't know what their credit score is. They're not sure. They might think it's good, they might think it's bad, but what they fail to do is actually monitor their credit. And in today's day and age, unfortunately, it is something that we need to monitor on a monthly basis. And most people, like haven't looked at their credit score since the last time they refinanced or bought a house or bought a car. So if you don't know what's on your credit report, then you don't know kind of what's going into it. But the big factors that go into credit, as you can imagine, the biggest one is being payment history. If you pay all your bills on time, that's a good thing. Most people don't realize that a one-time 30-day late payment, if you fail to make your payment before the next due date, it gets reported to the credit bureaus. And that could cost you anywhere between, let's say, 25 and 100 points.
100 points.
Off your credit score.
So length of payment history. There's a little pie chart that a lot of people find. So
payment history itself, and then you have utilization ratio. And this is a very misunderstood, piece of the puzzle.
Break it down for us.
So it has to do with your revolving lines of credit cards, department store cards, and it is the difference between your credit card balances and your credit limits. And most people think, I'll keep it about 50%, that's pretty good for me. Well, it's good for you, and it might be good for a financial planning standpoint, but in the eyes of FICO, the Fair Isaac Corporation, those are the folks that come up with our scores, it's a bad thing. You need to keep that utilization ratio below 30%. And they actually have a designation for consumers that keep that ratio below 10%. And that's a high achiever. So I know it's not easy to do, but when you're thinking about, look, we're going into the holiday season, and you want to make sure you keep your balances below 30% of your overall credit limits.
Okay, so just a quick little recap. So for revolving credit stuff like credit cards, what else would we consider revolving
Department store
credit?
cards.
Department store cards. So like the cards that people use every day.
Yep.
That are credit cards that are based on credit and achieving them.
Yep.
Receiving them. So out of that, your monthly ratio, so carrying a balance over, is different than using your whole card limit and paying it off in a month?
Absolutely. So now you have trended credit data that's coming, into play. They approved it. It's being used right now specifically in the mortgage industry by Fannie Mae. But
break that down a little bit. Trended credit for people who don't know anything about it.
Most people don't know. A lot of professionals don't know. So what's going to happen is if you apply for a mortgage and your bank is going to put that loan with Fannie Mae, which is very common. It's one of the biggest backed government security, agencies. Fannie Mae is going to look at the past 24 months payment history and balance history of all of your revolving credit. Right now, what happens is you pull a credit report, it's a snapshot in real time. What are have they made any late payments? But they don't care what your balance was 16 months ago. They don't care what payment you made 12 months ago. With trended credit data, they're going to look at that. And what they want to see is somebody who pays off all of their credit cards on a monthly basis in full. That's considered a transactor. If you're a revolver, that means you're carrying balances, and it might be less than 30%, but in the eyes of Fannie Mae, with trended credit data, you might get a different price and interest rate based on tiered pricing.
Got it. So what you're saying is that previously, what would happen is holiday time comes, I go out, I want to buy a bunch of gifts. You know, might be a little tight on cash, or might want to get those points, because a lot of people look for those points, and I find that the points get a lot of people in trouble. So now we spent some money, right, on the card, and we racked up $3,000 in debt. Now I decide to say, oh wow, I spent a lot of money during the holiday season, let me pay $1,500 off. So now in a real life example, I've just carried a $1,500 balance over. So that would put me in a little more of a high risk category. If I was now, instead, if I paid off, 70% of it, I might carry a $500 balance on my $3,000 card. So that would put me about in the 20%. So that would be positive, but I want to ideally be at 0 or 10% to be considered a high achiever.
Right. Well, under trended credit data,
no, I'm talking about just
overall.
Overall,
if you're less than 10%, you're in really good shape. And trended credit data, as of now, is not going to affect your credit score. This is really right now a specific mortgage industry pricing tool that's being used. But again, my thought is, I've seen this happen before. Once they adopt it and once they show the correlations, it's just like when the insurance industry started looking at credit scores. And they ran lots of different beta tests across the country. And soon as they saw the correlation between credit scores and insurance claims, specifically property and casualty, homeowners insurance, auto insurance, and what they saw was a person that has a lower credit score has a higher number of automobile accidents. They have the higher number of homeowner insurance claims and higher dollar amounts. Now, I'm the first person to argue that credit scores should not be used in those pricing models, but they are, and it was proven, and that's why it got passed through the legislation.
All right, so for all the people watching out there, trended credit scores is something that is going to start being used more by mortgage banks.
Yes.
And based on your estimation, it's going to be adopted into other agencies. So,
yes.
And other areas that people assess credit. So, we know like people now in job interviews run credit, and it seems that you're saying in the automobile industry, I know buying life insurance, they look at your credit score. So a lot of this stuff also assesses risk, and it's kind of giving a snapshot, right, as to the type of person. So if you're watching this and you're going to consider buying a house or a car or something in the future, when you're getting your points or paying your stuff off, look, think about this logically, because the difference in pricing on a loan over the course of 30 years, this is where you're going to really start seeing a difference. So for the people that pay like Chinese checkers with transferring the debt from one 0% card to another, yes, it's going to save you money on interest, but now with trended score data, it could have a negative impact on you, because the banks and people are looking to lend money to people that use it now and pay it off. The credit card companies don't want you to pay it off, because that's where they make all the money. So there's really like a difference here. All those 0% financing offers that you get where they send you the checks in the mail and stuff like that, these things you're saying now could have way more of a negative impact on your life than a few percentage of interest.
You're absolutely spot on, and I'm guilty, right? So I have no incentive to pay off a small credit card debt, because I'm paying 0 interest. It's not costing me any money to carry that debt. So why would I pay it off? So unless you understand what trended credit data is and what it means, then you might not pay it off. So if you're watching the show, just start to take more precautions and pay attention to anything that you're going to put on your credit cards. You have to have some kind of debt repayment plan. And I look at a 3-month plan. Again, we're coming into the holidays. if you're going to put any money on a credit card, you better have a plan to pay that off within 3 months.
So if not, then you should.
Then don't spend it, because
Don't spend
you know,
it.
every financial transaction is emotional, and what happens during the holidays is we're supercharged emotionally, and the reality is most people don't remember what you bought them last year, and we don't use our budget, we use the Joneses budget, and all of a sudden, you know, come January, the busiest time of the year for us as a credit repair organization is January, February, and March, and there's no secret as to why that is. People get themselves in trouble going into the holidays, and simply by putting just too much money on their credit cards.
So I think this is a perfect time for us to be going through this. And so some tips for the holiday is minimize your expenses, right?
Yep.
Only buy things that you can pay off. And I always love this saying. It's a simple saying my dad always said, and he always said you can only stretch your foot as far as it can go. So, you know, if your foot can only go so far and your budget can only go so far, think about this in the future, the way it impacts everything you do. Because you know what? If you go, and the simple exercise I'll tell people to do is go on Google, type in mortgage calculator, and type in 4%, and then type in 4.25%. And look at the total payment over 30 years. And that extra 0.25%, it might not make a big difference in a month. You might look at it, and I'm just making up a number, it might be $15, $20, right? But
Right.
you take $20, times it by 12 months. That's $240 a year, $2,400 in 10 years. And then you do that over 30 years, it's almost $8,000.
And that's monies that could be going into a savings account, which could be, you know, gaining interest and making you money. So you really, like you said, you have to look at these things. And that, let's say for easy numbers, you put $500 on your credit cards to buy people's gifts. And you don't pay that off in 4, 5, 6 months. That's not $500 anymore.
No.
Compounding interest, nobody really understands how that works, and it's devastating. So now the $500 purchase is $700. Now you just lowered your credit score, so instead of getting a 4.5% interest rate on a 30-year fixed, you're at 5.5%. So now that $500,
debt is $700.
Is $700. It could be thousands of dollars by the time you're done. So before you spend any money, make sure you have a debt
Make sure you
repayment
have it.
plan. That's probably the biggest takeaway from today.
So it's interesting. The next question I ask is like the polar opposite to this. So for the people that are out there, we've given some tips on how to use your credit, you know, some of the things that factor credit, but where do you start if you have no credit?
So that's a great question. You know, the easiest way is through secured credit cards. And secured credit cards, rightfully so, got a really bad name and reputation before the Credit Card Reformation Act. But in today's world, and you have to do, you know, some due diligence because they're not all created equally. But if those secured credit cards report to the 3 major credit repositories, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian, you can start to build credit in about 6 months. And after that, you might get an offer for a traditional credit card. So that's really the only way to do it.
So a securitized credit card. So for people out there that are watching that have no credit, let's go through a scenario. And you said not all of them are created equally. So if I'm a person that has little to no credit and I'm looking to buy a house, or I'm just looking really overall into my future because credit plays into everything that we do.
Yep.
So how do you have any cards that you recommend, or what are the questions you should ask?
This will be
to
my
find
shameless plug. You could go to betterqualified.com. I have about 6 banks that we've been working with for years. We've done the vetting of them. The terms and conditions are okay. We know they report to all 3 bureaus. But you can go to MarketWatch. You could go to a site like NerdWallet. And they've done a good job at vetting these companies also. So what basically happens is you take your money, and I think most of the minimums are around $200. You're going to deposit your money into their bank account, and that becomes your credit limit. So in essence, you're borrowing your own money, but everything else is the same as a traditional credit card. If you want to buy airline tickets, you want to,
So it's
reserve.
being deducted as you use it.
It is.
What's the cost of doing this now?
There are some fees, and they vary, but there are monthly and annual fees associated with them, and the interest rates are high, but the idea is that you shouldn't be carrying a balance. So you borrow your own money, you replace it. You borrow your own money, you replace it, until you get to a point where you can get to a traditional credit card.
So let me understand this correctly. I want to build credit.
Yep.
I have $500 to use on this. Now you're the credit card company.
Yep.
Say you're Chase or whatever
Yep.
credit card company. I'm going to give you $500.
Yes.
My credit limit's now $500.
Correct.
Now the money that I'm using, if I go out and I buy a $100 dinner, right?
Yes.
Now it's not taking the $500 and now making it $400. That $100 gets sent to me as a bill, and I now have to pay the $100, or does it get subtracted?
No, it's like a traditional card. When you go and use your credit card out to dinner for $100, your credit limit goes down to $400, and in 30 days you're going to get a bill that says you owe your new balance is $400. Your minimum payment is $13, but if you don't pay it off in full, you're going to get charged interest.
Okay, so this is what's really important for everybody to know. If you're taking money and you're putting it towards a secure credit card, do not make the mistake of thinking that, well, it's all my own money, I could spend it down to zero.
No.
That's how you'll get yourself into having bad credit.
You have to use it like a traditional credit card. You have a $500 balance, you never want to carry, you have a $500 credit limit, you never want to carry a balance that's over 30% of that credit limit.
Exactly. Okay, so if you have no credit, a secured credit card, go to betterqualified.com.
Yep.
You guys are the experts. Check the stuff out on there.
Yep.
You'll give everyone your contact information in the end so they could reach out. So that brings us to the next thing. One of the other things you do that's great that I've had clients and friends do this alike is, there are times that people have wrong things on their credit, stuff that needs to come off. We work with clients that need to get their credit improved so that they could buy a home. Look, we're coming out of, over the last decade, some major recessions, some tough times, and people have things that just don't go away or you have to work through them. So, what happens if you have bad credit, and how can you fix it?
So the most important thing is that you actually know, again, that you have bad credit. So that comes with credit monitoring and looking at what's on your credit report. And if you have a question about a late payment, a collection, a judgment, a charge-off, a tax lien, anything that's on your credit report needs to be verified and validated. It needs to be accurate. And that's where we come in. Because if that information is not verifiable, it's not accurate, hasn't been validated, then we will force the credit bureaus and the original creditors or third-party collection companies to delete that information.
Perfect. So if you have bad credit, it's not the end-all, be-all.
No, and it doesn't take 7 years to fix credit. That's probably the biggest myth out there.
That's a myth out there.
People make a mistake and they think, oh my goodness, it's going to take 7 years for me to fix this or for it to fall off. The statute of limitations on most negative items on credit reports is 7 years, but it says the item may stay on your report for up to 7 years. I mean, 10 years later, we've been doing this for over a decade. We've deleted hundreds of thousands of these types of negative items.
What's your partner, Eric? What's his name what's his full thing on Facebook? Eric.
On Facebook, he's Eric Michael.
So if you look up Eric Michael, Better Qualified on here, Eric actually missed a credit card payment. I think this was over the summer.
Yeah,
and he did
that's right.
a really cool series of Facebook Live where he went through an entire process of how he got it deleted. He talked about it. He discussed it. He showed how his score dropped. You guys also have a really great...
So he knew about it right away.
Yep,
because
your
he got
monitoring program.
He got an alert, and he said, "What happened?" And it was actually his wife's card, but we don't need to talk about that. A joint card. But once he saw what happened, and he tried to deal with the original creditor, and they were giving him the runaround a little bit. So then he used our services for himself, and I think it was about 60 days later.
He got it deleted.
He got it deleted.
He got the letter. So what's interesting is if you're looking to do this or actually want to see it in like real time and in a process, look, Eric Michael, Better Qualified. You could send us emails and we'll send you the link to his page, and kind of scroll down and you watch these videos and he goes through it step by step, and it's real interesting.
It was amazing.
It's inspiring to watch.
That it happened, unfortunately, what happened with the late payment, but then to have him, go through and do a documentary.
It's real.
It was awesome.
There are a lot of people that I've met that are just kind of catatonic to this. I talk to people every day who are like, well, my credit's bad, I'm never going to be able to home. And any of the clients that find yourself, within a year or less. I had another client that didn't qualify for a mortgage, and it was for a car repo that was past statute of limitations. I called Eric, we gave him the information, and I think in less than a week the thing came off. The guy bought his house and he was able to move, and it was really moving because the guy was buying a house for his family, saved up money for years, looking to move into this new construction house. It was the last house with the biggest lot, and he was able to customize the whole thing. But he couldn't get a pre-approval letter.
Right.
So by using this, he was able to get the mortgage, he was able to get the rate, his whole score jumped. So the reason I share these stories is to give people hope, to realize it's not hopeless. If you have bad credit, it's fixable. It's something that is not set in concrete. A lot of the stuff out there, you read about it, it makes it seem like it's impossible, So as we kind of go to the tail end of this, what's considered a good credit score? A lot of people talk about quote unquote tier 1 rates.
Yeah.
How do I get that? What's the maximum credit score you could have, and what's considered tier 1?
So the maximum is 850, but in 10 years, I've never seen an 850. I've seen probably a handful, less than 5 people over 800. But in today's world, a 700 is considered a good credit score. In the mortgage world, actually it's 720, 740, where you will pay no risk-based premium at all, whether it's for mortgage insurance, or the interest rate of the mortgage. And it's not easy to be a 720 or 740. It's kind of hard. And you have to start somewhere. Again, the good news is it doesn't take 7 years, but you have to know where to start. And if you have anything on your report that's negative, somebody should look at it. And especially if it's debt, unsatisfied collections, judgments, charge-offs, repossessions, tax liens, these are the things that are most often erroneous, or you're being harassed, you're being, the collection companies violate the Fair Debt Collection Practice Act every single day. So our attorneys have been very, very successful in not only having the debt erased, but the client would be entitled to up to $1,000 per violation. So before you pay off a collection, you get these guys are good. They're paid commission salespeople. They'll call you on Saturday morning and they'll say, Chirag, if you pay this off today, I'm going to delete it from your credit report. But what they're talking about is deleting the balance. There's no such thing as pay for deletion. If you have a collection that's reporting on your credit report, unless somebody like Better Qualified can find a reason, a violation, that it should be deleted, if you pay off a collection, it doesn't just come off your credit report. It'll be it'll be a paid collection, but it could stay on your report for up to 7 years, and that could create a drag on your credit scores. So before you pay off any debt, this is a situation where I say speak to an expert. And I don't care what it is. And if it's a judgment, that's a legal issue. So you should speak to an attorney, free consultation. Don't pay somebody, for a consultation. But you should get some legal advice if you're dealing with judgments or tax liens for sure.
Got it. So the max credit score is 850. And the one thing I do want to share with everyone is you guys have a great credit monitoring system. You could go on their website and find more information.
Yep.
And a lot of times people misconstrue what they get on Experian on their own and what the mortgage company does. So I want to be clear with everyone, that's two different things. They're going to give you a guideline, but the bank is going to run their own report.
Yep.
The 3 major credit bureaus, as we wrap this up, are TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax.
And then you have the FICO score, okay? The biggest problem that we see today, with these other credit monitoring sites is no one really has access to the FICO scores unless you pull a credit reporting agency report for like a mortgage or something like that. And not to use Credit Karma as the example, but there's a reason why it's free. And the information and the scores have nothing to do with mortgages or insurance or credit cards.
I'm glad you said that, because if you look at it, it's like your experience score, but that's not what they're using. Banks are using a different set of stuff. That's
Only one. It's FICO score.
Exactly, and that's based on the 3 credit bureaus. There's generally a high one, a low one, and a median.
Yeah.
So, if you're going through this, let's kind of just recap this. Look into credit monitoring, because also for identity theft and stuff like that, that's really important. If you haven't pulled your credit report, I think annualcreditreport.com is a good place to get a free report, a great place, and it's a good place to start. Now, if you find stuff that you don't like, you can reach out to Paul and Eric at Better Qualified, and they'll walk you through the process because they're the experts. Now, also the trending, what does he say?
Trended credit data.
Trended credit data is something we all need to pay attention to today, and especially moving forward in the future. If it's affected automobiles, job employment, I see someone using this and literally profiling you as a person, and the way you interact with debt is the way that they're going to view you as a consumer, a potential employee, how responsible you are, how likely you are to do certain things. So pay attention to that. The holidays are coming up, right?
Hey, listen, sooner than later, again, maybe you heard it here first, your utility payments, your cell phone payments, these will all be on your credit report sooner than later. And most people say, "Wow, what are you talking about?" And again, if you're like me, during the winter, during the whatever, you may not make an electric payment. You blow it off for a couple months. When you get the collection notice, you pay it. But sooner than later, all of your utility payments, cell phone payments, all of that stuff is going to be on your credit reports, just like credit cards, mortgages, and auto financing. So it's just something to keep in mind and start to think about.
So, look, as we leave, and we wish everyone a happy holidays, just be diligent, right, with your credit, how you use your cards. We gave you a great basis, the information for your website, as well as you and I will come up with a bullet point list, right? After this, we'll come up with a best practices list that we'll post at the end of this. And that's pretty much it, right? Thanks for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me on.
And I'm your host, Chirag Shah. This is the Gateway Realty Show, information you should not be without. Our show will be on our website, gatewayrealtyteam.com. And for more information, you can see us on Facebook. Thank you for watching. We'll see you on the next episode.